Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. So I'm Andrew Allen Bentley, Rabbi Andrew, Rabbi Dude, Rabbinic Cynic, coming to you from Palm Desert, California. I'm changing the format slightly. I'm not going live every day anymore, for sure on Fridays, and I'll keep updating you. The general concept of the show is staying the same. I'm switching things up a bit. I want to have some more guests, make things a little bit more interesting. But I'll always do a Friday segment on the weekly biblical Torah portion, and I thought it was very appropriate because we start beginning reading today. So just as a recap, in Judaism, we every week we take a little section of the 5 books of Moses, and it's called the parashah, which means the parashah is like a scroll, but it's a section of the Torah, and usually it follows different subject matters. This week is Bereishit, which is the most famous of all. In the beginning. In the beginning, Bereishit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The word is used Elohim. Right? Bereishit bara Elohim is a different word. The word Elohim is another word for God. So God is kind of an acronym. A colleague of mine, Rabbi Jules King, Rabbi Dr. Jules King of Desert Outreach Synagogue, which I'm affiliated with, mentioned. I was talking to him, and this idea that God is an acronym in certain senses for a higher, whatever your higher belief system is, and so it's interesting in Judaism. It's a very Jewish idea because the word Elohim is a word meaning God. It's actually a plural, but it means a singular God, the one God. But it's the God of judgment, and so in an overall art, as you look at the creation narrative, there's certain things that come to mind because when you just read it, when you read it as it's written, now you just take the literal translation of it. You see 7 days, the 6 days of creation, and on the 7th day God rested. We know, scientifically speaking, that's not how the universe was created. There was a Big Bang. It was a process that happened over billions of years, and the universe is continually contracting and expanding. And as we go through this, and it's a beautiful passage to read. If you take it literally, it looks like the whole of the universe was created for human beings, and I think that we realize at that point that's not the case. Of course, human beings, we are sentient beings on this planet. We understand that there are other beings, other species on our planet, dolphins as an example. If you want to go to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That's the so long and thanks for the fish. But there are many creatures on this planet that have higher intelligence. I believe there are the other animals have souls, trees have souls, or living sentience, and we just don't know because we haven't evolved far enough, scientifically speaking, to kind of really understand that. How do you know what a dolphin's feeling, or even your dog? Right? We know it's maybe not as smart as we are. Actually, some dogs are smarter than human beings, but the general idea is that I want to reevaluate the idea of the creation narrative that the earth was created for human beings, because it wasn't. The earth was created because of this idea of love, this idea that whatever, not necessarily just love, but the meaning behind creation, if there is a meaning behind creation, or it's just but what it is, it's us trying to understand what creation is all about. And if you go back to the ancient commentators, they ask similar questions, right? The Torah is a book of laws. The Torah is a book of laws. Why not start with the first law in the Torah, the first law in the Torah? And one of the ancient commentators from the 11th century France, a Jewish guy called Rashi, Rabbi, who lived in the Provence area of France, and he makes this question: well, if the Torah is a book of laws, why begin with the story of creation? And he gives an answer which is, well, so that because Israel was given to the Jewish people by God, the land of Israel, and it was God's to give to the Jewish people. That's the answer that he gives. But Nachmanides and some of the other commentators kind of argue about this point, and they see some more philosophical reasons behind this. And I think a big part of it is to show humanity. It's humanity's way of understanding our place in the universe. And we recall, when you look at something that was written thousands of years ago, when you look up at the stars, you look up at the sun, and you look up at all the different and the oceans and the sea creatures and the animals and the trees and the plants, you have to come to an understanding. How did this come into being? What is it all about? And there is one significant word that in Hebrew it says, and God saw it was good. And it was seen that it was good. And that, I think, is an important thing to understand, is that all of creation is good. And then we get to the sixth day where human beings are created. And then after that, we have the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And what happens with them? They fuck up majorly. I'm saying this in a biblical term. Don't mean to offend anybody. Well, I just said it. But they do. They mess up. And we keep seeing this continual messing up of human beings. And at the same time, it's juxtaposed to the goodness of creation, the goodness of everything around us. And again, I believe that is a call to arms for peace, so to speak, for peace and love. That if we see everything that was created was good, and then you see that when did evil start? Well, evil started with human beings, really, if you look at it. Now, we were not created. That's the difference between Judaism and say Christianity, is that in Judaism we do not believe in original sin. We were not created. We have the capacity for evil and an equal capacity for good. And when we look at the other days of creation that led up to the creation of human beings, we have to understand that capacity for good exists in everything. And that as human beings with this kind of higher developed intellect, we sometimes think that we are godlike, or that we have dominion over everything else. But at the same time, we really don't. We know that we are vulnerable to nature. We know that we are vulnerable to disease. We know that we just came out of COVID. Well, we're not. COVID's still around. I just had my bivalent, the other shot. So, we know that we are vulnerable. And some of this is of our own doing. Some of this is just beyond our control. If a meteorite hits Earth, it's beyond our control. Full life is destroyed. And you see this creation narrative that the world was created in 6 days, and then the seventh day God rested. Now, I want to set the record straight on this. Judaism does not literally believe the world was created in 6 days. We have to understand that it was it's all metaphor, it's all analogies. One day could be 1 billion years. It's just a way of understanding how this process of evolution, how this process of creation started. But ultimately, by seeing human beings on the sixth day doesn't mean that we were the true purpose of creation. And that's the reason behind some of these arguments that people have on there are different interpretations often over whether human beings were the purpose, the ultimate purpose of creation, and many modern theologians are starting to realize that's not true, including the new Pope. Pope Francis wrote a whole treatise on that, discussing how that has to be reevaluated in our responsibility to the planet. I recommend, it's a great read. He wrote this on environmentalism, and so I see Bereishit, the first book in the Torah portion, is the ultimate environmentalist book. It's the ultimate environmentalist section of the Torah. And it shows us that, so when Rashi says, why doesn't it begin with laws? So when the biblical commentators talk about this question of why does it begin with the story of creation, as opposed to saying, okay, these are the laws of humanity, this is how you should live, that is the law. The law is that we have to have that responsibility to creation. We have to look at everything that was created around us and realize that we are responsible for that, but not at the same time is that we are also at the mercy of nature. That nature is that we are living in symbiosis with our planet, with the universe. And as we reach out into the stars, as we go off into the universe, as we explore the moon and we go beyond that, we will at some point realize that we really are just tiny specks, and our lifespans are tiny specks when we look at the arc of history, at the arc of the history of the universe, the history of time and space. There's a new Doctor Who episode coming. It's going to be the end of Jodie Whittaker, Doctor. I'm going to wonder how that's going. But the idea of time and space and in Doctor Who is kind of interesting. I always like to bring sci-fi into my talks. But you know, science fiction. What science fiction does is create these narratives, these stories around creation, around where we're going, where humanity is going. Isaac Asimov was great at that, talking about artificial intelligence and everything else. Obviously, I think at the end of the day, human beings are not the ultimate purpose of creation. And we can, if you look at the simple translations that have been written over the years, it seems that human beings are the reason for for creation. But when you go into some of the midrashim, the midrash, which is the midrashot, midrashot. When you look at the different stories around and commentaries around this creation there are definitely differing opinions as to the purpose of creation. And I think it's important to understand that, not take it literally, and also not take these translations that you read literally, because when you look at the Hebrew, it's not as clear-cut as you actually would think. And I think it's really important to, and I'm going to be teaching next week, next Saturday morning at 8:45 at DOS. Here, though, I'm going to show you, this is my email address. And if you want to come to my in-person Torah study, which will be this next week, 8:45 a.m. Saturday morning, next Saturday, on the 29th of October. I'm going to put my email address right here. This is my email address, rabbibentley@gmail.com, Bentley like the car. So send me a little email, I'll give you the location. It's going to be Desert Outreach Synagogue, Shabbat School, and there's going to be a little service at the end as well. So that week I'm going to be doing my in-person at Desert Outreach Synagogue, which is held, which again, email me and I'll let you know where it is. And then there's going to be some other locations where you can do in-person. And I'm doing some Zoom ones live as well for you people that watch all around the world. And I got people that watch all around the world. And it's also recorded. But I want to make it interactive. But the whole purpose is to have these discussions. So if you have comments on what you believe, what you think is the creation narrative, send me a little email, or after this, if you're watching this after it's posted on Facebook, it's always posted on Facebook. If you're watching this later, come along and write some comments what you think is the purpose of creation. You don't have to be stuck in the human beings are the ultimate purpose of creation. The world was created literally in 6 days and God rested on the seventh day. I don't believe that's the case. We know that's not the case because science, we know that. We just look up at the moon. The moon is not 5,000 years old. There's no way the moon is 5,783 years old. There is just no way. And so again, this is those dates are dates about civilization, dates of humanity. So again, I just want to wish you a Shabbat Shalom. Have a wonderful Shabbat, a wonderful weekend, and I hope I left you with something to think about here. And again, I'm going to leave this down on below. If you want to email me, if you want to come to my in-person next Shabbat, next Saturday morning at 8:45 a.m. For my in-person, and we're going to be talking about Noah. Why was who was Noah? What did he do? What about the ark? What's that all about? And we're going to have some interesting discussions about why didn't we just start with Noah as the father of humanity, like Abraham, or the father of Judaism? And that's another question entirely. And I've talked about it, touched it a little bit, but I'm going to go into that text a little bit in depth when I do my in-person classes, as I will be doing throughout this year. So again, wishing you a wonderful Shabbat and a wonderful weekend. If you don't observe the Sabbath, or your Sabbath is on Sunday, or it's on Friday. So if your Sabbath is Friday, if you're a Muslim, then I wish you a wonderful Sabbath today as well. So everybody live long and prosper as I do, and I will see you next week. Take care, everybody. Bye.